Okay, so now that we've talked about the classification of matter, let's see it in action a little bit more. All right, so we're going to be talking about elements and compounds. So initially, if I gave you some of these, let's see, we would want to classify these. So if you look at these, this one's made up of a circle and a square. Yes, my drawing, that's supposed to be a square. And this is made up of triangles. This is made up of a bunch of circles. So elements, it's going to be just, this is our lovely rendition drawing of what the elements look like. Whereas this would be more like a compound, because it's made up of different things. So here's a real life example. If I gave you AU is for gold. I know people really value gold, so this gold by itself is actually an element. There's nothing else in it. It's just one element. You can find it on the periodic table. All right, so let's write a definition for an element. So an element is a substance that cannot be broken down into other substances by chemical methods. Okay, so there's a few examples of that. A compound is a substance composed, let's move these down a little bit, of a given combination of elements that can be broken down into those elements by chemical method. All right, so if you look at this, this is made up of a circle and a square, right? Those can be broken down into elements, these guys over here. All right, so let's look at a couple others. If I gave you this one, where do you think that would go? If I gave you these two, where do you think they would go? Well, if we look at them, if you can't really break these down. These are actually considered, these are all considered elements. So O2, that's oxygen. We have that in our air all the time. It's what you're breathing that makes you feel so great. And N2, that's nitrogen. It is also in our air. Let's see, another example of a compound would be this. And then a real life example would be water, right? H2O. Now, those are the definitions for elements and compounds. So these here, these are elements. And you know what we have here, these are our compounds. However, we have a kind of generic term that I need to make sure that you're familiar with, and that is a molecule. All right, so a molecule is a group of atoms bonded together. So if we look at what we have here, well, these over here, they're not bonded together. They would be right next to each other if they were. These are bonded together, and so are compounds. So I'm going to take a different color. So a molecule is going to be this row here, our S2, SQ2, or O2, or N2. These are elements and molecules. And then compounds. All of these compounds are also molecules. So molecules are kind of a more broad, sweeping term. But I just want to make sure that you've got some of those definitions. Another thing that you should be familiar with is a mixture, and I'm just going to use well, I'll leave this here for a second. And let's define what a mixture is. So we talked about a mixture in the video a little bit, right? Before. So I'm just going to put it on top. Mixture is going to be something that has variable composition or more than one thing in it. Okay, so if you're looking really close at this same level as we were before, these are both mixtures because we have different things in here all together mixed together. And then as far as homogeneous or heterogeneous, you can't really tell by looking at this level. You'd have to look at a more macro scale, as I talked about before. So this is just a visualization of the differences between an element, molecule, compound, and mixture. So hopefully that helps you visualize this.